Hello and welcome to the 1912 Exiles podcast, the original, the biggest, the best Newport County podcast, made by the fans and for the fans, brought to you with Terrace Cymru and in association with the Riverside Sports Bar, the best bar in Newport for sports fans. I am your host, Pod OG Rhys, and I will be getting into the bones of last night's win against Carlisle. But first, we had a match diary submission from Arnie after our victory at Crewe on the weekend. So over to you, Arnie.
Greetings, Exiles. Arnie here, just with a few quick reflections on what turned out to be a perfect day in Crewe, which is not a sentence that gets uttered very often, but with us winning and all the sides around us losing, I think that's very much what it was. So going up, speaking to people, this felt like a bit of a free hit against a relatively high-flying Crewe side, amongst those kind of three high-pressure relegation six-pointers that we've got and have had over the last couple of weeks. I think we would have taken a point. Absolutely brilliant then to walk away with all three, and also having put Crewe to the sword. I think we're really benefiting from some consistency now of shape, of team selection, and also pragmatism around where and when to play football and when to just get rid of the ball. After a performance like that, it's really hard to pick out individuals. But for me, Joe Thomas, marauding down the right, has been a real revelation for us. Antwi, you can see him really maturing and putting in some really strong performances now in midfield, particularly bearing in mind that we didn't have Kai Whitmore or Kieran Evans yesterday. And if you haven't seen it yet, check out his goal celebration. CBR put in a real shift up top, was a pain in the backside to their defenders all day. Took his goal really well, and I loved his cheeky celebration to the home fans of the team that he used to play for. But my real standout was Clarkey again. That's a string of warrior-like performances that he's putting in. You can really see that rubbing off on those around him as well, which I think really shows in the week against Morecambe. We got the points, I think, because of a worldy man-of-the-match performance from Nick Townsend. But he had pretty much an armchair ride second half. So we need to wrap Clarkey up in cotton wool between games, give him his own physio studio, and keep our fingers crossed that he stays fit for the rest of the season. Because with him in the team, we're different gravy. He's been awesome for us. So that's a fantastic turnaround, all 3 points. And with everybody else around us losing, that was just brilliant. Try and keep things in perspective, Exiles. So still got lots of work to do. So don't throw away those lucky pants just yet. Give them a rinse ready for Tuesday and stick them on for that game against Carlisle. And we'll see you at the far post.
Thanks very much, Arnie. And just a reminder, if you ever do want to submit a match diary or be featured on the pod, we are always very welcoming of guests. So into last night's game against Carlisle. My immediate takeaway is that we are probably now safe. We are on 39 points with 16 games remaining. There's quite a few teams below us. We've rocketed up to 14th from our fourth successive win. If we view 42 points is what the two teams went down on last year, so if we view 45 as safety, we are 6 points away from mathematical safety. But bearing in mind, we have a 16-point gap to Morecambe and an 18-point gap to Carlisle, with a whole host of teams below us. Many of those, Tranmere, look like they could be getting sucked into that mix for the two worst teams in League Two. However, from last night, credit to Carlisle. They played some really good football at times, and I think for the second time in a week, I've watched us live and we've been the second best team on the night. But we have come away with a victory. So two things kind of stood out immediately for me last night. The first is that we seem to have match winners at the moment. Even when we're second best, we've got players like Kamwa and Ajiboye who can create something out of nothing, and that was the case last night. Absolutely incredible run from Kamwa. He beat about 3 players, fed it into Hudlin, who still had plenty to do. It's easy to miss those kinds of finishes, but very calmly and coolly slotted it away. My second big takeaway is something that we've been critical of Nelson of in the past, where he's been a little bit slow with his substitutions when you can see that things are going wrong. Last night we were under pressure in the second half, and the substitutions came in and immediately kind of changed that, resulted in the goal, going to a flat back 4, pushing Cameron Antwi further up the pitch and bringing on Hudlin. And I think allowing Antwi to press more higher up the pitch kind of stifled that control that they had in midfield, and we still had that threat on the counter-attack with Martin and Kamwa. So yeah, I thought that was a really positive sign from Nelson. Maybe he's learned from past mistakes. You know, this is his first kind of head coaching gig in senior football, so he's learning as well. I thought there was quite a few really strong performances throughout the side last night. I thought Antwi once again worked really hard. I thought that Cameron Evans had a really good game. Joe Thomas played well again. And despite coming in for some criticism earlier in the season for his defending, I thought Glennon had an excellent game defensively, certainly in the first half when he was in front of me in the Bisley stand. He got some really important blocks and got a foot in when players were running at him. I thought he had a great game yesterday, to be fair. And that's encouraging. That's kind of the philosophy of this side. That's what we're aiming for, is bringing these players in and then developing while they're here. So, fingers crossed, that's kind of an improvement that we continue to see. But all in all, very happy with a 4th consecutive win. So that's 5 unbeaten. We've had 2 clean sheets in that run as well. And that was my major concern kind of during our bad run, is how many goals we conceded. And it looks like we're making considerable improvements on that front. So that's really positive, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it's coincided with the return of James Clark either. And as always, it's worth mentioning Nick Townsend again with another great save, probably responsible for winning us more points than any other player in this side, and I really hope that we can get him signed up for another 2 years in the summer, because he's out of contract at the end of this season. But I'm sure there'll be plenty of teams looking at his performances for us this year and thinking he can do a job for them. I think he'd be someone who is very difficult to replace, so hopefully Hugh can get the deal done and keep him. So that is it from me. Just left to shout out Nelson Jardim for his best Jose Mourinho down the touchline, fist pumping away at full time yesterday. That was excellent. And a shout out from the game the week before was a shout out to former county player Adam Lewis for winning a header against Kyle Hudlin, despite him being a foot taller than he is. That's all from me today. Coming up will be the home game against Bradford, and we will be combining that with our coverage of the Trust meeting next week. So all that's left is for me to thank you for listening. Look after yourselves, look after each other, and most of all, keep it county.